Yeah, they blow it the last 2 hours.
Or they eat a huge meal.
Yeah.
You know, you eat like a 1,500 calorie dinner.
Okay.
And then you're asleep an hour and a half. You got 1,500 calories.
Plus, you're also digesting that food, right?
Absolutely.
While you're sleeping. Yeah.
So your body's, what am I going to do with this stuff?
Okay.
Because Newton said, energy can neither be created nor destroyed.
Very good.
It's got to go somewhere. So your body says, okay, we got it. We turn to fat.
This is so good. All right, real quick, last thing on that. Water, which you're about to drink.
Yes.
Perfect. Like, I don't know how you knew I was going to do that. How important is drinking water in one's nutrition? I find, like, a lot of people say, hey, I lost 7 pounds the first week on whatever. I'm like, you dehydrated yourself. You lost 5 pounds or 6 pounds of water, right? And 1 pound of fat. So how important, I just want to make sure that people know they need to be hydrated and how you feel about that.
So here's a quick story. When I was in med school, I asked our kidney professor, physiology. So this guy was an expert. He wrote the book, Heinz Velten. He wrote the book on how the kidney works. And I said to him, Dr. Velten, how many glasses of water are you really supposed to drink? He says, Smith, I'm going to tell you something. He said, the number 8 glasses was made up. I was like, what? He's like, yes, that number was made up. We didn't know that was really 8. Someone just said you should drink 8 glasses of water a day.
Really? Okay.
Then they backed into the number. And what they realized is the amount of water you should drink is the amount to replace your water loss during the day.
Okay.
The average person probably loses, average, not someone who's training a lot, the average person probably loses between 6 to 8 glasses worth, cups worth, 8 ounces per cup of water a day.
Okay.
So you got to replace that. Your body is 70% water, at least. And what people don't realize is just because you're not sweating doesn't mean you're not losing water.
Right. Okay.
You lose water when you're breathing. It comes through your skin. You don't realize it. You obviously eliminate it. You know, you urinate it. So you're losing water all day long, by the way.
Okay.
And so people are dehydrated and don't realize it. Okay. So I say the average person probably needs between 6 and 8, 6 and 9 cups of water a day. Okay. The more active you are, the more water you need. And by the way, here's a trick to lose weight with water. On all my programs, I say before eating a meal, you have to drink 8 ounces of water before you take the first bite.
Okay.
Why is that?
More full.
That's right.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Your stomach works on expansion. So your stomach is like this, collapsed when there's nothing in it. And inside the wall of your stomach are stretch receptors. Okay. And those receptors send a signal to your brain when they get really stretched. So if you start, like my fists are closed here, if you start like this and you consume some water, you're like this. You have less room now for the stomach to expand with food because you've taken some up with water.
Very good.
So a quick tip is before every meal, right?
Yes.
Drink 1 cup of water.
I love this. All right. By the way, I've done a lot of shows. I guarantee you the most detailed, most note-taking, most tactical stuff we've covered so far. I guarantee you that. So now we get to indulge me because I'm just fascinated by this.
Okay.
I'm not as educated a man as you are.
Stop.
So there's Harvard and Dartmouth on this man's resume. And he has a book. So he's written so many bestsellers, but I think The Ancient Nine is the most unique one. So guys, I just feel like this is such a peek into a world that I never got access to, that probably the vast majority of people have not. But can you tell us about, it's a novel, by the way.
Yes.
And I love this. So tell us a little bit about The Ancient Nine. This is almost like learning about, I guess I would call it almost like a secret society to some extent.
It is.
And you encountered at Harvard. So tell us about The Ancient Nine, the book, and then what all that world is about, if you could. This is going to be, guys, this is something you've never heard before,
so
most of you.
Real fast. So I went to Harvard undergrad. I'm a kid from the other side of the tracks. I didn't grow up with wealth. We didn't have any money. I was in a legacy, which means I didn't have people who had gone to Harvard. You know, I came from a working class family. So, but I was a very smart kid, and I worked very hard. You know, kids who keep their head on straight, who are poor, they're hungry.
Yes.
You know, I was a poor kid. I was hungry to do better. And I knew as a kid the best way to get ahead was to do well in school. That was my out. You know.
Your parents emphasize that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
So I always say we were not rich in materials. We were rich in love and education. Because my mother, I didn't have a dad, just my mother. My mother would say, you got to do well in school. And I was a great sportsman too. So I did both. Played sports and I did well in school. And I was very competitive. Anyway, I get into Harvard. My brother and I have a twin brother. We get into Harvard. And
both of you got into Harvard?
Both of us got in.
From a single mother?
Single mother.
Awesome.
Working class mom. Yeah. I don't know if you can do that these days. It's so hard. But anyway.
Spectacular. Well, I guess you did it. Wow.
Yeah, I credit her. But so we get into Harvard. We go to the school that is just, the who's who,
Yeah.
the family names, Kennedys,
Yeah.
kings and queens and whatever. So we go to the school, and what happened was, I didn't know anything about Harvard. Like, I didn't know like the history of Harvard. Jeez, I was a basketball player, I was from a small town in Connecticut. Get to Harvard, and one night, one morning I wake up, and someone has slipped under my door an envelope with my name on it and the room number on it. There's no stamp. There's no return address. So I'm like, I at first thought it was at Harvard. There are a lot of like these organizations, like the a cappella singers and all these different groups.
Okay.
I just feel it was one of these like nerdy kind of groups that So I didn't pay attention to it. I didn't even open it.
Okay.
So I put it on my table, whatever, in the common room. Went about my business, and then one day after dinner, I came home. I was about to throw it away. I just opened it up, and it said, "The president and members of the Delphic Club cordially invite you to a cocktail party." Had the address, and call with regrets and blah blah blah. So I was like, "What is a cocktail party?" I had no idea what a cocktail party was.
Okay.
My people didn't go to cocktail parties, so I was like, "Oh, okay. This must be one of these organizations these really snooty, highfalutin organizations." One thing I noticed about like rich kids, I'm not teasing if you're rich, I'm not teasing you, but rich kids kind of like they imitate their parents. Like they're more advanced, like they act like older.
True.
Right? I mean,
I agree with
they
you.
do everything faster than the average kid.
Sure.
So I know the cocktail party was. So I put the envelope to the side, the invite. I'm in basketball practice one night. We're in the locker room. And we're taking a shower, the guys are talking, and they're like talking about these clubs. And they're saying, the upperclassmen, they're saying, I was only a sophomore, but the juniors and seniors said, yeah, it's punch season. So I'm listening to these guys, like, yeah, the clubs are starting to invite people to potentially join their clubs.
You know nothing about this.
Nothing.
Wow.
Zero.
Okay.
And so I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. And then someone mentioned the name. They said Delphic. And I knew that was the name in that invite I had in my room.
Okay.
So I raced home on my bike, and I opened this thing up, and I had been invited to this secret society. It's called punching. That's the name they use. And for sororities and fraternities, they say rushing.
Yep.
Or so they rush a fraternity or rush a sorority, I guess. They call it punching. And so I got invited to this cocktail party. So I said, I'm gonna go to this thing. Yeah. I was a very curious guy.
Yep.
And so I went to this party, and I gotta tell you something. It was like I wrote in the book. I mean, the book is 80% true. It's based on me as this poor kid who gets invited mysteriously
It's awesome.
to join this thing. And I go to this cocktail party in this huge mansion in Cambridge, and these guys are in these starch blazers and gold buttons and Rolex watches and smoking cigars. I've never seen this stuff is like a movie to me.
Yes,
right?
exactly. It's to me.
Yeah. So anyway, to end it, I end up you got to go round to round to round. So there are events. First, there's a cocktail party. Then there's a dinner. And after each round, they cut the list. So they start about 125 guys, and then the members will cut the list to 75, cut it to 50, cut it to blah, blah, until you get to about 15 to 20 guys who they, at the end, invite to actually join the secret society. And they asked me to join. And to this day, I cannot tell you why they would ask a poor kid who had no connections, didn't go to prep school, and they asked me to join. And it was just a great experience. And so I got inside. I don't want to ruin the book with people to read it or listen to it. The audio is great, by the way. The guy who reads it is great. But I want people to read. I become your eyes to go into this very clandestine, very upper crust world of guys who are billionaires and these kids who are flying around. It's more common now, but back in the day, these people had private planes. I didn't know what a private plane was back in the day. I was such a regular.
Yes.
Sometimes ignorance really is bliss. Luckily I didn't know all this stuff.
I just think that, by the way, I want everyone to read the book. It is literally like a movie, except it's real.
It got optioned, by the way, to be a movie.
Yeah, it should.
It got optioned to be a movie, so knock on wood.
It should be.
Yeah.
And guys, you could get the movie now. I'm not promoting the book. I'm promoting the book and the audiobook. Like, you all should hear this. And even like for me, because I wasn't in that world, it's almost like there kind of is an Illuminati of sorts, right?
I learned, this is what I learned about this world, that the network, let me back up for a second. The have and have-nots. Mm-hmm. I grew up a have-not.
Yeah.
Okay, and I still have the sentimentality of a have-not. Mm-hmm. I've been very successful. God has blessed me. I'm very appreciative for that, but I'm also very humbled that I'm small compared to the universe. What I learned is that the have-nots have a network and a way of operating that is so removed from the regular life and thinking of us regular have-nots, the haves have this world, that we don't even know what they're really doing.
Yeah.
There's so many deals behind these closed doors. There's so many people picking up the phone and calling, this guy's dad is a CEO of Morgan Stanley, and his son wants an internship. He doesn't go the regular route.
Yeah.
He doesn't file an application, go to interviews. No. The dad knows the CEO. They went to school together. They were in the club together.
Yep.
It's just, I'm not whining about it, because there are a lot of different networks in the world, but you need to be aware that everything is not fair. I mean, you talk about the scandal with the schools, with Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin. I mean, they operate in a different way.
Yep.
They just do.
Yep.
And my brother got in because we just didn't know any other way to get in. You work hard, right?
Yes.
You get in. And I just think that, I always say to my friends, I said, this is where the haves have it wrong. The haves don't realize that the have-nots don't want mansions and cars and stuff. They just want to kind of lead a decent life.
You're right.
And you guys don't give them any room, right?
Yeah.
You guys hit them all the time.
Yeah.
Baggage fees. You think a baggage fee affects a millionaire? No.
Right.
But for a person who's traveling with a family of 4, and then they got now paid $25 to $30 for a bag.
You got it.
That makes a big difference to these people.
Huge difference. You know, big difference? Gas taxes, too. There's other ways to tax people than fuel, and that hits poor people disproportionately in a huge way.
A huge way.
Where they run out of food at the end of the month because they're paying a tax on gasoline and things like that. So we think very, very, very similarly. I can already tell. Now, but by the way, I want everybody to know one thing. You can get life momentum. And at different levels of life does get a momentum, and collaborations do begin to happen, even how you and I met, right? It's not some secret society,
That's right.
but we are connected with some very similar
That's
people,
right.
and it makes life, getting it off the ground, if you come from that place of have-not, is a very difficult place. But there is hope when you get it going because of the collaborations and the meetings and different little organizations you will meet that will afford you progress in your life too.
The 2 most important things to do that, in my opinion. Number 1, surround yourself with positive people.
Yeah.
Positive people. If you're surrounding yourself, I didn't say rich people.
Yes.
But people who are positive, who are optimistic, who want to achieve in life. Surround yourself with them because it's contagious. And the second thing is, above all else, you must always believe in yourself. Always believe in yourself first. Because sometimes and often you're going to face situations where no one believes in you.
Right.
And if you allow people's lack of belief in you to dissuade you from believing in yourself, you can't accomplish.
Did that never happen to you? I'm curious. Let's be real. You grew up with a single mother, African American. Yeah. You're now getting into this world where it is not the norm every single day. You're not seeing, if you walk into a room of 300 people, there aren't 299 that look like you that come from where you come from.
No way.
So speak to people that relate to that for a second. Did you ever struggle with that? Or was there something your mother did or something internally you had? Your own confidence, your own. I just put a post out yesterday, one of my most responded to posts, and it was about when I started to make progress for me. And obviously I come from a different place than you, but even me, when I got to that new room, that new place, me going, I don't know if I belong here. I would have these thoughts like, maybe it's a fluke, maybe I got lucky, maybe they're gonna figure me out here. I still have that once in a while. They're gonna figure out who I am, right? And so I know if I had some of that, did you have any of that, or are you just wired differently?
Never.
Wow.
I never, ever had a scintilla of thought that I didn't belong. You wanna know why? Because from a little kid, I believed my grandfather when he told me, if you work hard, you can succeed and win. I just believed it. I don't know what made me believe it, by the way. Since I was a little guy, I believed it. And so I always believed that if I did my work on time, I got A's, I didn't get in trouble, didn't mess with people, that good things would happen, and go to church on Sunday, good things are gonna happen to me. So when things started happening, I was very appreciative and respectful of it. But I never felt like I didn't deserve it because I felt like I worked for it. I mean, I really did. I mean, like, geez, my brother and I, we played basketball. We used to wake up, and this is funny, we used to wake up in the morning and go to our high school and run hills at 5 in the morning to get better.
And then go get 4.4 GPA wherever the heck you were getting.
And while our classmates were sleeping,
you were after it.
Okay, we were after it. 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, up at the hills, we would see the milk guy come deliver the milk in the morning. This is a true story. So I grew up in a way that the fire in me to succeed, because I always accepted, even at a young age. I used to talk to old people a lot when I was young.
Me too.
And they would tell me stories. And one thing I got from them was that life is really short. And they would always say, geez, I can't believe all these years have gone by so fast. They would always say that. And then I would listen to them say what they would do differently. And what I realized is one common thing was they would have been more present in the moment.
God, that's true. So true.
Present in the moment.
You, but one of my top 2 or 3 favorite answers ever, because it was so honest. And I want to say something to you about it, because I did have that struggle where I didn't think I belonged. And my way out, this is on hundreds of tapes and audios, is verbatim what you just said that you had the whole time. I started to go, wait a minute, I'm doing things no one's willing to do right here. I'm outworking everybody. And what happened was my self-esteem changed because it became a self-worth thing. Self-confidence to me is the process of making and keeping promises to yourself.
Oh, geez.
And I had this reputation, right, with me over time where I trusted me. And I felt more and more worthy of the rooms I was going into, because I wasn't looking at who the other people were in the room. I was looking at me, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm doing everything that makes me belong in this room. And so you had it all along. I developed it as I got older.
And I never allowed external validation to make me feel worthy, ever, ever. If you didn't want me at your birthday party as a kid, guess what? I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to slide through the back door. If you don't want me there, if a girl doesn't want to go out with me, I don't want to go out with you either. I don't want to be in a situation where I got to force myself on you or force a situation. I'm good. I'm good. I just feel like that has really, and it's helped me, by the way, as I've gotten older. And listen, no successful person has not had tough times and tough moments. We all go through, right? The public doesn't always see it, but we all have our moments. And one thing that has kept me steady has been me believing in myself and realizing that I've worked hard and my validation is with me.
Oh my gosh.
And that I set the highest standards for myself. Yeah. I do. No one has ever had to set a higher standard for me than me.
Yeah, you're special. I got to say something, everybody. I'm going to get you one more question here. Everyone that's listening to this right now, please do your colleagues and friends and family a favor and make sure they know to listen to this from the very beginning to the very end, because there's so much in here. I didn't know we were going to go down this road at the end.
Sorry.
No. I'm grateful, because I want everybody to be doing that, because you all know each other that listen to the program. Tell them, I know you started out and they went through some unbelievable stuff on how to get healthier, and then this stuff at the end is bananas. So this is one of these, you listen to the whole darn thing. Last thing I want to ask you about, just because I think it's cool. You got named by President Obama. I want to give it the right name, Council of Fitness, Sports, and Nutrition. You're the medical contributor on all these different shows. I've watched you on GMA. I've watched you on the Rachel Ray Show, which you're a part of. You were on The Doctors. You've been everywhere. I got to think, though, that was one of the coolest things that's happened for you. And did you get a chance at all to interact and work with him? And if you did, what was that like?
Yeah, so, the White House is an amazing place, by the way.
Is it?
It just is. It's the people's
I've been
house.
there on the tour, but I've been on the part
inside.
you went to.
I think that because it's our house, we own it. All of us own it. I think that we need to do a better job of giving people access, not just to the tour part. I mean, I don't know how to do it. Maybe there's a lottery system, but some way people need to see the rooms where the work happens. When work's not happening, like the Oval Office, and going into the Roosevelt Room and seeing like all the presidents and their pictures and the famous. It's just unbelievable. So to go into like the West Wing, so the West Wing, to actually go into the actual West Wing is really something special.
I'm sure.
I love our country. I love our history, the good and bad of it, right? Because no one's perfect. We've had some bad moments in our history, but I love our country. And I told you before, I travel a lot.
Yeah.
And every time I go away, I was just in Japan, every time I go away and learn about other cultures and countries, it makes me love my country even more. Not that I don't like these new places, I love them too, but it makes me appreciate America more. But going into the White House and working with the president, Obama he's just an awesome dude, man. Forget politics. Like, as a man, he was just a cool guy. He had a swagger about him, and we played ball.
You did?
Oh yeah, we played ball. I got this great picture at my house where he has his hand on my shoulder. The council is standing there like talking to him, and Chris Paul, the basketball player, is standing next to me, and the three of us are kind of in a moment. And I love that picture because it's very candid, because they got these photographers that are always going around, and it's just a great moment. But this council was an honor because I got a chance to sit down with my heroes, like people like Billie Jean King,
Wow.
Carl Edwards from NASCAR, the gymnast Dominique Dawes, Michelle Kwan, the skater, the Olympic skater, Grant Hill.
What a great group.
It's unbelievable. And be able to sit at the table and you're like, geez, like I'm at the table with these dudes, like I count, like, you know, but
Your life is remarkable, and it's just you're so young.
yeah, well, you're as young as you feel.
You're in the middle of it, so you don't have context for it yet. But there's got to be a little part. It happens for me once in a while, where I'll actually say something that actually really did happen. Maybe even when it was happening, I was like, and then I say, I'm like, wow, that was wow.
Well, you know, I'm glad you said that, by the way, and we can close on this. Like, I always say that I like to work in the trenches. I like to work. I like to make progress. That's just kind of how I'm wired that way. But every once in a while, I had to teach myself that you have to look up from the trench and see the landscape. Don't take a portrait view, take a landscape view and see kind of where you were, see where you can go. And that kind of guides you in life. And so for me, personally speaking, when someone will say to me, like someone was introducing me, I don't usually listen to my intro. I'm like, oh geez, why are they reading this bio? Like it was on and on. Yeah. But then I was like paying attention for some reason. And like the dude was like going over my stuff I've done. I was like, wow, I did all that stuff. Like I was like, honestly, I'm not being arrogant, but I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Like,
yeah, I don't think you're the least bit arrogant.
No, but like I was like, wow, that's the kind of stuff I want to do. I actually did that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I worked 3 jobs when I was a young kid.
Yeah.
Like when I was young out of med school, I was working for Time Magazine, for NBC News, and in the hospital as an intern. I did all 3. Now I did that because I didn't know any better.
Incredible.
Right?
Incredible.
I was a young guy. I didn't need to sleep back then.
Yeah.
I was all over New York running and changing in the car like Superman, going to the hospital, going to Time Magazine. But anyway, so I just think that, I want to say to people who are listening, I just think that people really have to find themselves, right? And to think about, I just said this to my mother driving here. I said, Ma, figure out how you want to live the rest of your life. Just figure that out. Figure out what's important to you.
Yeah.
You know, we're so quick to do things because it's expected of us.
You're right.
It's expected. But no, don't do that. A lot of times in my career, I cut across the grain. I stopped doing medicine for a while. Everyone said, what? What, are you crazy? I was doing orthopedic surgery. I started doing TV. You're doing TV? All the best decisions I've made in my life are decisions that I thought through, that I didn't allow others to overly influence.
Wow.
And I typically cut across the grain. I went in the direction that people said, you probably shouldn't go that way.
What great advice. Yeah. It's obviously...
I mean, you've done it too, obviously.
I have, but it's obviously worked. I just think it's the most incredible advice, because I wish you would say some things I could challenge today, because typically on the show I'll challenge something.
Next time.
Next time we'll get a little more controversial.
Yeah.
But first of all, I want to say something to you. I want to say thank you on behalf of millions of people listening to this, because the idea of this show is to both teach people things that they didn't know before they started, they can tactically implement.
Sure, absolutely.
Change their thinking to some extent, and then inspire them. And like we hit 10s out of 10s on all 3 of those things today. So I'm immensely grateful for the time today. Everybody, make sure that you're following Dr. Ian Smith on Instagram.
At Dr. Ian Smith, spell the doctor out, I-A-N Smith. And if you want to join one of our challenges, we do it on Instagram, but also on Facebook.
Okay.
So they can email me, actually. Can I give that out?
Sure.
My email is abychallenge